Yeah, thanks for joining me today. And thank you everyone for attending. We've got a great webinar planned for you guys today. On our agenda today, we're going to be looking at some of the most widely used templates as part of EdApp's authoring tool. We'll be showcasing some of the ways they've been used in our content library and by our other clients as well. And we're going to show you what they look like from the back end, how you as admins might build these templates and use them in an authoring sense, but also how they look like when they're deployed to learners and users. Uh, so again, Luke's going to be joining me. And Luke, I can see that we got you loud and clear.
Yeah, no, great to be here, Chris. Just to introduce myself, I'm part of the solutions team, actually based in California, but over in lovely Pennsylvania at the moment, in the nice cold weather on the East Coast. But it's worth mentioning that today's webinar is actually going out across the Americas and into Europe as well. So for those of you that are in the UK and European countries, welcome. We've got a live chat and a Q&A running. So for anyone that's kind of new to these webinars, make sure you post your questions and give us feedback there. And we've got Paula from the UK saying hi. Thanks for that, Paula. And already I can see a few questions coming through. Will this webinar be recorded? Yes, absolutely. We have a YouTube channel with all of our recordings, and we can certainly email the recording directly to you as well if you let us know. So yeah, great to be here, Chris.
Awesome. And thanks for that, Luke. And as Luke mentioned for that chat, I'm going to ask you, Luke, if you don't mind interrupting me during the webinar and making sure that we can get those questions through as they come in.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Well, like I mentioned, we're taking a look at template-based authoring today. As many of you already know, and for those of you who might not know, EdApp is template-based. So we're looking at some of the different interactive templates that you have access to via the authoring tool, some of the ways that you can just drive engagement through e-learning by dropping these templates into your lessons. We're going to be looking at the way these templates function and how you build with the authoring tool by stacking these templates up. And we'll have a preview of what these templates look like when they're deployed. So
And
without,
Chris,
oh, go ahead.
sorry to interrupt you there. I think it's also worth mentioning at this point, why templates? Why have we developed an authoring tool with this approach, given that, there's many ways to go about it. And really what it comes down to is that with EdApp's authoring tool, your expectation should be that you can develop and deploy content much more quickly than other solutions. We believe that there's a huge advantage in the being able to put together micro-learning content, build out a micro lesson in say half an hour if you already have the content ready to go into these templates, and then deploy those out to your audience. And what you'll also see with the templates going through is that although you are using a predefined UI framework, your ability to customize and brand and really kind of make the experience your own is still there. So in our eyes, you get the best of both worlds, which is very exciting.
Perfect.
Sorry about that, Chris.
No, you're good. Why don't we kick it off?
Let's do
So
it.
as Luke has just mentioned, we're taking a look at the authoring tool right now. And on the right-hand side of the screen, we see some of those templates, the ways in which you can stack those up to quickly and in an agile manner, build out e-learning. And so as you see, if we rifle through these little templates here, we've got a variety of different interactions that you can have. I won't take time breaking these down just now. That's the point of what we're going to try to do over the next 10 or 20 minutes. Without one thing that's worth mentioning, just so we don't lose our place, a lot of these lessons, these that we're looking at today, they're from our content library and they're also from some of our clients. So they're going to be covering a wide variety of different verticals and different industries, just so we can, keep things mixed up and get those creative juices flowing, if you will. What we're looking at right here is a lesson from a hospitality client. I'll get into this template that we've selected in just a moment, but just keep in mind that we're going to be going over a couple of different verticals. All right, so first things first, we like to open up any micro lesson, any learning module with an image slider. It's a pro move of one of our top instructional designers. A little shout out to Sam Fari here for those of you in attendance who might know him. And the reason why we love using these image sliders at the onset of a lesson is, and as you can see here, it's a great way to set the mood. You do have the option of using a GIF, as we've seen here. Of course, a static image always works. And it allows you to build out a gallery of 3 or more separate images to give the learner an idea about what you're going to be covering today, whether that's through some simple lines of text, and then of course the imagery that you're using. So as we work our way through, as you can see, we've got a second GIF in here, a second line, and more about setting the atmosphere for this particular hospitality client. So what does this look like for the learner? We can see how we would build this for the user. It's just a matter of dropping the image here, adding the lines of text. The learner's interface is much more clean and much more simple. As we can see, the effect is we've got a splash screen, we've got the text on screen, and the learner can work their way through this gallery of images before hitting continue and working their way through the rest of the micro lesson. So if we wanted to see another example of a deployment like this, moving on from a hospitality sense, here is a little bit of product education. Looks like it's for Jose Cuervo Tequila. We've got a really great GIF in the background. We've modified the font of the lesson to be a little bit more on brand. And then again, the user can work their way through the material. They've got a gallery that welcomes them into the micro lesson. And then upon hitting this button, they work their way through the rest of the remaining slides of the lesson. Again, really just a great way to kick things off. And I highly recommend using these sliding image templates to get that job done. Hey, Luke, how are we doing on questions?
We're all good at this point, but just weighing in from my side, I think with both of these examples that we're showing here, we have a great use of animated GIFs in the background, which, when you're talking about Jose Cuervo and product education to a sales team, perhaps, or in this instance, if you're talking to retail staff, GIFs are a great way to go, because obviously you're talking to an audience that really want to have their imaginations captured, and with beautiful imagery that can tell a story, GIFs can really enhance the experience. But it is worth noting that every subject won't demand a GIF like this, especially the one that we're looking at on screen. So if you're dealing with subject matter that's a little bit more conservative, then of course you can upload a static image to the background, or just simply leave it as a kind of flat color. So all of those kind of things are available to you as well.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Luke. Moving on forward, let's take a look at our second example. This is actually, yeah, a perfect example of what you're just talking about here, Luke. We're moving on from hospitality to the 4 different types of chemical exposure. It looks like the course that we're looking at right now is a course on chemical storage and handling from our content library. The lesson is working safely with chemicals. On screen, we're looking at an image collection template that we've collected from the template library. And we've got 4 separate images here on screen with these little glyphs. And upon clicking onto these, zooming into these glyphs, the user is greeted with a title and some paragraphs, or some lines of text, I should say. So this is a really great way to get simple concepts across to your users in an engaging way, wherein you're not just looking at a slideshow per se, or a wall of text, but something that a user can interact with. And again, just like we saw with the image gallery in the last one, these image collection slides are super simple to build. It's just a matter of selecting the image that you want. This is the same field that we saw earlier, but in this case, a static image has been applied, and then adding the text. So if we zoom into this one here, we've got our content at the bottom of the screen. It's just a matter of copy and pasting. For example, if you had like a training document that you're getting this material from, copying and pasting that from the training document, and it shows up live in your authoring tool right over here. So how does this look for the user? Let's take a look. Now we're taking a look at this course as you would see it from a desktop point of view, someone accessing EdApp from a Mac or a PC. And we've got the content. The user can take a look at each of these 4 topics. and receive a little bit more context behind what you're training for. These don't have to be images. There's varieties of these of this style of template that allows you to do text and text, etc. There's a couple of different collections that you can have. There's even a video collection template, which works. We'll actually take a look at that later, which works just like this. However, these are all collections of video or audio assets. Again, just a really great way to tell a story.
Chris, we've got a little question here from Denise. Hi, Denise. Um, can the authoring tool be used to develop courses for a computer rather than mobile screen? So if you could talk us through, I guess, how the layouts work on EdApp and how our experience is responsive, that would be great.
Yeah, that's a really great question, Denise. And yes, absolutely. What's really nice about the way EdApp's been put together is that you only build the material out once. And then, Denise, once your learners are taking the lessons, if they're viewing it on a desktop or they're viewing it on their mobile devices, they're seeing the same material, but it's been adjusted to better fit the display that they're viewing it on. Now, if you're building out material predominantly for desktop instead of for a mobile audience, there's a drop down that's available right here in your authoring tool that allows you to preview the way the content will look on dozens of different displays. So EdApp just intelligently changes the aspect ratio of the material on hand to fit a better display. For example, an iPad, right? If we click this button, now we see the way the display would look like, on someone holding an iPad in landscape mode. I lost my place. No worries. We can take a look at, for example, this template that we've selected. How does this template look like in a mobile sense and in a desktop sense? Here we can see it used on a desktop in both of these two examples. And here we see someone viewing this exact template that we were just working with from a different lesson. In a mobile, it looks like it's on an iPhone 10. So hopefully that clears it up for you.
Yeah, so we've got a follow-up question here from Marie. What would you use for desktop? So just to reiterate, Chris, here, when you're building content, you're always in that authoring tool that we were looking at a second ago, where you've got the left-hand panel, which is a visual of the learner experience. By default, we show the mobile layout because it fits handily on screen with the other elements. But the layout is responsive. So anything that you enter into the authoring tool will then, depending on the device that it's served on, then behave responsively and enlarge images, reposition text, etc., etc. Kind of like the same experience that you might see on your favorite shopping site, for example, whether you're buying Black Friday sales on your phone or on your desktop, the environment will adapt according to the device. So EdApp has a suite of mobile apps. Your learners can download the iOS or the Android app to actually install the experience on their phone, and they can actually access the experience on the desktop as well. So we have a lot of partners that exclusively use mobile because, for example, they might be talking to a retail audience that don't have desks, or partners that want to use both. So it's completely up to you. As I said, the mobile apps are available for download. The desktop experience is available through any browser. So you'd be going to web.edapp.com and signing in, and the experience and all of the features are exactly the same. So yeah, you can basically choose your own adventure there.
Yeah, perfect. And again, just to reiterate, you only have to build the content once. We'll take care of shuffling up the layout of the templates to make sure it appropriately fills the screen of whichever device your audience is viewing your lessons on.
Yeah, the best way for anyone that wants to see this in action is to actually go in and create your own EdApp account. We have a freemium version of the platform that you can log in and do everything that we're going through on screen right now, and you can have a play around with the experiences yourself. Chris, before I let you go on, there was another question that just popped up before about using Markdown. We see the little hashes on the inhalation text there. So if you could explain how that works for us, that'd be great. Lots of
Absolutely.
questions today. Very good.
Oh yeah, we love to see it. Keep them coming. So the markdown with EdApp is it can be simple and it can be complex, which is great for if if you have very specific design goals that you want to achieve, you've got the ability to do that. However, if you want to keep it simple, you can just write your lines of text in. And when you want to modify them with Markdown, you can automatically apply any Markdown that you want using the toolbar at the top. And that includes things like upping the size of the text, adding bold or italicized. Of course, if once you become familiar with the way that Markdown works, you can actually just add those commands yourself by typing the pound key instead of pressing that button at the top of the screen, or whatever it might be for italicized and for, I believe it's asterisks or underscores for italicized. Um, yeah, and it's just quite simple. It's a matter of putting these characters in, and you achieve the markdown style that you want.
Yeah, thanks for that explanation there, Chris. I mean, Markdown is really just a lightweight language for formatting the text, as we could see on screen. But if you're not that savvy like me, just feel free to use those editing toolbar at the top to bold and increase the font size. That's a very easy way to go, so you don't have to remember the special tags to drop onto the text.
Yeah. That does lead us into something that we should be keeping an eye out for. A lot of the templates that we're going to be taking a look at today, or at least the examples like the one we have up on screen, they've had the CSS of the lesson modified. And that's what I was kind of hinting at earlier when I said you can get you can get a little bit advanced with the ways in which you can modify the appearance of your lessons here on EdApp. So we'll keep our eyes open for that, and I'll try to point out any instances of great custom CSS. We can further explain what that is later. So getting
Yeah.
back to the image gallery template that we've got here, this is just one really creative use case for a template like this. Earlier, I said that this template's great for telling a story. Here is communicating in noisy environments for a hospitality training module. And we've got some images of hand signs with some more information about what these hand signs might mean, between your staff, right? Sticking out two fingers sideways means a VIP is in the house. They're talking about you for this one here, Luke. And yeah, it's just, like I said, a really great way to tell a story. Moving on forward, we've got this exact style of template that we just saw in the last two slides, but it's been reformatted to fit on a mobile display. Without any action needed from the author, we just stacked these up vertically instead of splaying them out horizontally as we would if the display was much wider. Again, the interaction still works the same. You can click onto any image to receive a little bit more context on the bottom of the screen. Here's a really great example of the way in which the image has been resized to fit a larger piece of text. Again, no action needed on the author's part. We took care of that part automatically. All right, let's move on forward to the next template style. Perfect. So along the same vein, but a little bit more interactive, we're taking a look at a drag to match template. So this drag to match template is quite similar, but it is an assessment, wherein the previous template that we were just looking at was a content or a knowledge transfer template. What that means essentially is a knowledge transfer template is just a great way to convey information to your audience. An assessment template is a great way to make sure that they've captured it, right? What this template allows you to do is you have imagery or text on the left-hand side of the template with labels on the right, and your audience has the opportunity to drag these images or these pieces of text on over to the appropriate labels and submit it for a response, which you can then measure, right? So your audience can then get it right or get it wrong, and you get to tell them why they got it right or why they got it wrong. So again, let's just take a look at that interaction. The way that this was built, it's very similar to the last template that we just saw. It's only a matter of dragging and dropping or uploading the files that you want to include in your template, copying and pasting the pieces of text, and then the interaction is built out automatically for you using your authoring tool. All of these items that you're putting in are then shuffled onto the screen here and displayed to your audience. They're displayed a different way each time someone opens up that slide. So what does this
That's
look?
great there, Chris. Before we let you go into the demo, we have a good question here that's really relevant to this slide. we have the question asked, do you have an image or icon library to pull these assets from? So if you could talk us through what we can do there, that'd be awesome.
That is a really good question. Yeah, absolutely. Actually, as of quite recently, we've launched an integration with Canva. So for our instructional designers in the audience, this is something that you should be really excited about. A lot of people love Canva, myself included. Prior to launching our integration with Canva, you would just find an image your own on your own from like a royalty-free library or just a simple Google search. But you don't have to do that anymore. You click this design on Canva button in any imagery field, and then you immediately launch the entire Canva suite right over your authoring tool. The benefit that this gives you is the ability to search through different photos, edit images as you would traditionally with Canva, right? Overlay text onto your lessons. All of this is easily doable through Canva's suite of tools. Edit the material, change the transparency. If you were looking for an icon, I actually haven't tried looking for icons yet, so this might not work. But let's take a look. All right, cool. So we've got a couple of different ones that we can choose from. And it's just a matter of dropping them right into your lesson, hitting publish, and then they appear on screen.
Thanks for that, Chris. That's great. And also those animated GIFs that we were looking at earlier, Canva has a great library of GIFs for you guys to use as well. So essentially, when you're uploading any sort of graphics, you can either pull them in from your desktop or hit that Canva button and you're away.
Awesome. All right, so let's take a look at the user interface in this one. Now we're taking a look at this lesson as we would see it from a desktop deployment. This is a simple drag to match. We just saw it on screen. It's just a matter of dragging, in this case, icons over to the appropriate bins in the right-hand side of the screen. Once we've exhausted all options, we can hit submit, and we can see if we got it right or if we got it wrong, and you get to have a little bit more context. You get to choose what text you put on the screen if someone gets it right, if they get it wrong, or for either scenario, so you can reinforce. Moving forward, these drag to match templates, they're great for the mobile arena, as you would imagine, with the touchscreen display. In this instance, we've got a drag to match with text on the left-hand side of the screen, as well as text bins on the right. You get to mix and match whether you want text and imagery on either side. In this case, instead of dragging and dropping, we're doing a simple little line animation. So you draw these little lines on over the answers that you think you've got, hit submit, and we find out how we did. This example that we're looking at is kind of straying away from what we've already seen so far, and this is some in-depth software training. So this is really great. The reason why I wanted to bring this up on screen, for if you're trying to train on complex topics, templates like this allow you to do that gracefully and with a lot of convenience. Here we've got two bins on the right-hand side of the screen, one for cardholder data and one for not cardholder data. Again, a very complex topic. And we've got four potential answers. And it's a matter of taking these pieces of text, dropping them in the appropriate bins, and hitting submit, and your user can then answer the question. I don't know how I got that right. It must be my lucky day. How are we doing
That
on
was great there, Chris. Lots of questions again. We've got a few more in-depth questions that potentially are probably better suited for the end. One, just asking us for a bit of clarity on how one might put together an actual program of compliance delivery on the platform utilizing some of these templates and some of this content. That's quite a big question, so we might just carve out some time at the very end of the presentation to walk through that. Along with that, we also had a question about our PowerPoint conversion feature, which essentially allows you to import any PowerPoint and automatically the tool will generate a micro lesson for you. So I think that one as well we will answer at the end. And then finally, a question about analytics, which also will combine into that quick run through at the end. I think we can maybe try and test your skills, Chris, to try and answer those three questions in 5 minutes at the end. Again, if anyone's tuning in today and you want a really in-depth look at any of these features, we'd be happy to jump on the line and talk you through it. We'll challenge you at the end to work through that if that's okay, Chris.
All right, perfect. I'm up for it. And that is a great question for the audience member who asked about PowerPoint upload feature. You're definitely at the right webinar, right? Because the PowerPoint upload feature with EdApp is really convenient and it is very powerful. However, an inherent lack of ability from PowerPoint is that your presentations are always static. At most, they might include videos, but it's usually just bullet points and imagery. So adding some of these more engaging templates to your lessons once they've been uploaded is a really quick and easy way that you can liven things up for your training program.
Great point there, Chris.
So moving forward, we've just got one more example for a drag to match style template. In this case, we're looking at some fire safety training from our content library. And I just wanted to reiterate, because I do really like this template. I think this is a really great way to assess your learners. We just drag and drop the answers from the left-hand side of the screen with what we think is the appropriate bin on the right, and we hit submit. I don't think I'm going to be doing very well for fire safety anytime soon, but we'll be all right. All right, so let's take a look at the next style of assessment that we've got going on here. And that's the venerable multiple choice, right? In this case, true or false. So we have quite a few examples of different true or false style questions, as well as multiple choice style assessments that you can use on EdApp. So I've prepared a few. The first one that we're looking at here is, instead of just the simple radio button true or false style, this interaction that we have on screen that's called categorize allows you to drag and drop the answer into the appropriate bin. And some of you might be wondering, what's the benefit of complicating what is usually a really simple interaction by adding this sort of drag, this drag mechanic? And the answer is, we want to keep your audience on their toes. When someone's taking a lesson on EdApp, they shouldn't be able to idly flick through the material and click next, 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 next. We want to engage their attention. So by giving them multiple different vehicles through which to answer these questions and these assessments, we can sort of capture their attention and make sure they're paying attention to the material at hand. And this is an example of one such way to do that, just by adding a different mechanic to an otherwise really simple way to answer a question. So just drag the answer into the correct bin, hit continue, and the user has then got the answer correct or incorrect. And for the audience member who asked about analytics, yes, you absolutely do get a chance to track all of these interactions in your program. And we can give you a short preview of that later on in the webinar. So moving forward, this is what the interaction looks like on a mobile display. Again, the user just takes their finger and drags the answer into the correct bin, hits submit. I should have known this one. We just answered it, but we'll be fine. And yeah, the interaction is quite straightforward, albeit different.
Chris, if I can pull you up there just for a second. I have a really good question here about on the interaction slides, like this one, is there an option to try again? So to reattempt this question. So if you could talk us through what we have at our disposal there, that'd be great.
Absolutely. If the admins have allowed you to allow your learners to if you admins, sorry, let me rephrase this. If you admins allow your learners to retake lessons, then they can. They can always restart the entirety of the lesson. And if possible, the user can then step back in a slide and re-answer this question. So you have the option to limit the amount of attempts a user can take. By default, it's unlimited. So you can always step back and try to answer this question correctly the second time around.
I'll
But
also add to that, obviously it's very important that the learner takes away the correct response, even if their answer is incorrect. So there's two functions that help there. So if you press continue there for me, Chris, we've got the takeaway, which is always an affirmation of the correct answer. Obviously, we will inform the learner whether they're correct or not, but the descriptive text below is really there to enforce the correct answer. They can go up and go back, as you said, Chris, to retake the question. And then the final tool that you have at your disposal is the ability to provide a summary at the end of the micro lesson of all of the correct answers. So a learner at the end of the lesson can have a flick through all of the responses, and if they wanted to go back and restart the lesson, they absolutely could. And we see a lot of behavior of that when you're applying scores to your lesson, and whether they're minimum scores or just whether you've got a leaderboard in place, for example. These are all really good tactics to encourage learners to then go back and retake lessons and make sure they're performing their best. So there's quite a few facilities at your disposal to make sure that learners are putting in their best efforts there.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Luke. Sweet. So let's take a look at a few more examples of multiple choice questions. Moving on forward, as I was just mentioning, we have a couple of different interactions or mechanics through which you can pose these questions. This lesson that we're looking at right here is a little micro lesson on entrepreneurship for small to medium businesses post COVID-19. But I digress. What we really want to focus on here is that we've got a multiple choice question with 3 possible answers. And then the user is prompted to circle the correct answer. So why don't we try that on screen? We circle the answer that we think is correct, and we hit submit. So this is one example of a template for those of you who are, deploying learning to like a heavily mobile first audience. I would recommend maybe picking this template over some other ones. This one works really well on touchscreens. As we just demonstrated, it also works quite well on desktop, just the same. But this is just a fun and an engaging style of template. I really do like this circle interaction here. Of course, I know we've been throwing a little bit of shade at the radio buttons, but there is some merit here for some more serious content topics, such as defensive driving for car drivers or heavy vehicles. There's nothing wrong with adding a few different radio buttons. That's something that you can easily achieve on EdApp here. Here we've got a multiple choice question. We have an image asset present on screen as the prompt, which is something that's quite easy for you to do. So the user can then just select the appropriate answer and hit submit. But I do want to pump the brakes here. Earlier, I mentioned that we're going to be looking at some different, really stylized templates in EdApp, and this is one great example of it, of one. So we've strayed away from the traditional design of EdApp templates, and you can see if you focus in on a few of the UI elements that we've got these red text bubbles, these hard like 90-degree corners on all of the elements on screen, yellow UI elements. These are all little nuances that you do have the ability to edit in your authoring tool to better match your brand identity. Now, this is a fairly generic one here, but it just goes to demonstrate the ways in which you can change EdApp to better match your identity, as I just said. Moving forward, we're looking at a matrix of multiple choice questions. This is really great for if your learning program or your training program sort of demands a longer format style of assessment or an exam, if you will. That's easily achievable with EdApp by a series of these multiple choice questions. Again, all of these work as separate interactions. You have to get all of them correct in order to work your way through this topic. Of course, you can always just build out a series of individual questions if you wanted to further measure or be more granular with your analytics at the end of the program. That's the word I'm looking for. All right, so let's move on forward. How are we doing on questions, Luke?
Yeah, we've got a few new ones, which is great. First one here is from Pedja. Is there a template on an EdApp lesson, about basic features for users, e.g. how to navigate through lessons, how to join discussions, etc., that we could build into our courses and programs? So I can answer this one. We don't have a course in the library that you can download by default to meet this objective, but we do have a one that we actually have in our own kind of EdApp super admin libraries that we can absolutely share with you. Normally, we provide this kind of template to customers that are deploying during the onboarding process, and we can talk you through how it works and hand it over. But we would be more than happy to drop it into your account. So we will. I'll look for your contact there, Pedja, and I'll send that over to you after the webinar. Thanks for that question. The next question here from Juan, is it possible to create divergent learning paths according to answers? I'll also answer this one. At this point, no, we do not have that functionality. It is on our roadmap for next year, which is really exciting, but unfortunately, we do not have that functionality at present. It is quite a hot topic among our customers, and subsequently, it's kind of being pushed higher and higher on our roadmap every day. So definitely keep an eye out for that in the future.
All right, great. So let's move on along. And thank you guys for your questions. I just wanted to showcase one last example of a multiple choice style question. And this one is more scenario based or more conversational, a little bit more casual, if you will. We're looking at some COVID-19 training for the workplace. And in this template, you get the option to pose a scenario with the title here. You have a prompt, which is a text bubble, a chat bubble from whoever it is that it might be. These are all editable. And then your user then poses one of 3 or 4 separate answers. So they select the answer that they think is correct, and then that's the answer that they provide. And you get the chance to measure whether or not they got it correct and provide some reinforcement, as well as what they should have said instead. So moving on forward to a different type of assessment. Now we're taking a look at missing word. This is a really engaging and very easy to build style of assessment that I really appreciate with EdApp, because the way in which you put these together is quite straightforward. It's just a matter of copying a line of text that carries a lot of importance from your training. For in this case, we're working on fatigue effect on retail employees. Paste that line of text into the title field. Here we see fatigue is commonly caused by irregular shifts and work hours that limit a worker from getting enough sleep. Right now, what we're going to do here is add 4 or 5 different options at the bottom of the screen, and the idea is a few of the options should just directly match words or series of words that you have in the sentence above. In this case, the word irregular and enough sleep. And then the rest of these options, you can just type in anything that you'd like, as long as it's remotely similar to the sentence that you have on screen. The effect that's built out for you is you've got the sentence that you've pasted in from the title field is available here. Those words that you've put into the word field that match the above sentence have automatically been underscored and are now options that your user can then drag in. So what's the goal here? We've got the ability to post a sentence that's got missing words, and the learner drags and drops what they think is the appropriate word to fit into that space based on the sentence and the context. And then they can submit that and either get it wrong or get it correct. The reason for adding extra words is just to mix up this assessment and give your user the opportunity to get it correct. So once they submit the answer, they receive the reinforcement. So let's see that on screen. Again, we've got the options right here. Some of these are correct and some of these are incorrect. Let's go ahead and drop in what we think is the appropriate answer. Or maybe we'll get it wrong and we'll just hit submit. And here's what happens. And again, this is a really engaging interaction that we have the opportunity to put together just by pasting a simple sentence from our training module right into EdApp using this template. Another example of this, moving forward, another example of this is from a product training point of view, is we've got our sentence right here with our underscore, all of the options that we have made available, drag and drop, and we can hit submit. I just want to pump the brakes on this one. And earlier we mentioned some of the ways in which you can stylize the CSS of a template. This is a shining example. of modified CSS to better match brand identity. In this case, it's for the company Glossier. We've got the logo in the top left corner. We've got thin lines throughout the entire UI. Again, 90-degree corners instead of rounded corners. And we've changed the gradient or the bubble here to be a flatter, darker pink. The background of the lesson has been set. These are all things that you can modify in your app if you want. Again, to better promote brand identity and a feeling of cohesion with your learners. How are we doing on questions, Lee?
Yeah, going great. A couple of requests here to look at our live classrooms feature. Again, we might just save that for the end and walk through that with the other questions relating to building out a program. Natasha is very eager to see how she can host Zoom meetings in the application, as well as replay existing recordings. And I believe that's coming up in a second, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. We can definitely showcase that for Natasha.
Awesome.
All right, great. So moving forward, we've got another style of assessment template. Again, so this is a really simple way that you can train on complex topics. In this case, we're talking about cleaning up a job site. And the template in question is a reorder template. All we have to do is drop in our question at the top, and we've got the steps to this specific process. It's a matter of putting each of these steps in a specific field in these different fields. Make sure you put them in the order that is correct when you're authoring them. The effect for the user is those steps that you take are then shuffled up and presented to the learner. And it's the learner's job to make sure they reorganize each of these steps into the appropriate order. Hitting submit, they get the question right or wrong, and then of course they receive their reinforcement. I really like this. These templates can be used for a variety of different things, whether that's training someone how to, build out a sandwich, right? Training hospitality employees about the appropriate steps for opening up a restaurant, training construction employees about the appropriate steps to safely perform a task. There's a lot of things that you can do that are very process driven with this template, and it's a really simple way to put that together. Again, it's just a matter of reorganizing these into the appropriate order, hitting submit, and moving forward.
Again, I think on that example there, Chris, another great example of branding. Obviously, in that case, we're just impersonating Subway to showcase an experience for them. So here we've modified the background, the text, etc. So it is very, very immersive.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a great example of changing the UI color to this Subway green color. And yeah, like Luke mentioned, moving forward, this template works really great in a mobile display. Of course, having a touchscreen makes dragging these around a breeze, and it makes it exciting. Just wanted to showcase the way that these are reoriented for a mobile or a portrait display. And let's move on to our next style of template. Again, another shout out to Sam Farhi, one of our instructional designers here at EdApp, who brings up a really good point. What we're looking at here is a scratch to reveal template. And he conjectures that you should be adding a scratch to reveal template somewhere earlier in your training program or your learning program, so that you can familiarize the user with the fact that moving through EdApp courses is not a click, click, click. There's going to be a variety of different engaging and exciting ways that you can interact with the lessons. And it's not always a button press to move forward, right? So what is the scratch to reveal template? You have the option to add either a piece of text or a piece of imagery, either before or after. You can modify either of these to be text or imagery. And the effect for the user is they get to have this scratch interaction where they scratch away the text or the image to reveal what's beneath. And you can provide more context at the bottom of the screen. Again, either before or after. So we'll just try that one more time. You scratch that away with your mouse or your touchscreen, and you get the chance to move forward. Taking a look at that in a mobile sense, as you can imagine, it works really well for a touchscreen interaction. Here, instead of imagery on both ends, we've got imagery on the first side and text on the back. So again, this is just a really great way to promote the fact that moving through EdApp lessons isn't always going to be next slide, next slide, next slide. All right, great. This is one of my favorite styles of templates, the image waypoints. So this one's a little bit more complex, but building it out is quite easy. It's just a matter of uploading an image. In this case, we're still working with this workplace fire safety lesson from our content library. And what I've done here is I've simulated uploading our company's floor plan to this field right here. So it's just a matter of finding your floor plan and pasting it into this image field. And then you get to build out 3 or 4 or 5 different waypoints. And these are quite simple. Building out a waypoint is a matter of pressing this edit region button and highlighting a region on the image that you've just uploaded that will be activated if you click, right? So the waypoints box works by dragging and dropping over this staircase, for example, and then we can provide more information about the staircase if the user clicks this part of the image. Of course, you always just add text. You have the option to add narration if you'd like. Let's take a look at this in action. Here we've got the image that we've uploaded. I've highlighted 3 separate waypoints in the lesson. It looks like this staircase, some of these labels right here, and the handicap access. And the effect for the user is they see these little nodes, they can click them, zoom in, and provide more and be provided with more context to these specific regions of the image. Again, just a really interactive way, a really engaging way that you can present something as simple as a single image. Of course, this always works really well on, this is another example of a template that works really well on mobile. We've got a map of the United States here, and clicking into these different regions of the image allow you to provide your audience with more context. All right, Luke, moving forward, I know we had a question about this one. Video is obviously really popular in the training arena, and using video templates on EdApp, you do have the ability to play or provide these videos for your users. And it is quite simple. As we've seen with other templates on EdApp, you just add a video template to your lesson. You have the option to drag and drop a video right here in this field. And then the video player is automatically built and then deployed for your learner. In this specific example of a video template, we're looking at a file that we've already had on our desktop, right? Just dragging and dropping that MP4 file into place. And then the effect for the user is they get a video player. They can scrub through. They can, if you give them the option, they can skip through. They can change the volume. They can go full screen. All of this is achievable with that video file that you put right into this lesson. No extra effort necessary. Of course, if you didn't have any videos readily available, using a video template, you can also stream from YouTube or Vimeo. And it's quite simple. It's just a matter of dropping in a YouTube video template, adding the URL of the YouTube video that you would like to show, providing if you'd like maybe a start time and an end time. And then the video is simpler and the video is played right for your audience. Taking a look at that in action, this works really well on desktop. Of course, those videos are portrayed in beautiful landscape. We've got all of the features that you would expect from any video player present at the bottom of the screen, and it works in mobile just the same. Here we've got a piece of software training talking through the steps of a software process. Shout out to our friends over at iAuditor. This is from a lesson on how to get started with iAuditor in our content library. How are we on questions, Luke?
Yeah, good follow-up question here from Denise. Can you add buttons or interactivity over the video?
That is a great question. Denise, no, you cannot add any buttons or interaction over the video aside from that skip button. However, a lot of the templates that we were just looking at, say, for example, the image waypoints templates, allow you to add buttons over imagery. So what you could potentially do is capture some highlights from any videos that you might have and port them into a GIF. Add the GIF to this image, and then you've got that functionality right then and there.
Perfect. And we've got a follow-up question to our kind of looking at video here about live classrooms. So there is the ability to showcase video, whether it's a recording of a live classroom or the actual live stream itself in our virtual classrooms feature. So we'll save that one for the end and come back to it.
Perfect. All right, great. Let's move things along here. We've got a simple content template. At the end of the day, it's really good just to be able to get a couple bullet points across. So if your program calls for a wall of text, if that's something that you need to deliver, using an engaging, expandable list is a great way to show those points while still compartmentalizing your material for your audience so that they can have, as best a possible chance to retain the information that you're delivering. So this is a really simple template. You add your title, and then you add your bullet points, essentially, broken down by category. And the effect for the user is they can work their way through these different bullet points by expanding the list underneath through each one. One thing about this template, you might be concerned that the user could skip this material. They have to open up each of these different compartments before being allowed to progress. This is really great for pseudonyms. Work your way through the different the different letters present on screen, and you get more context. R is for rescue, A for alarm, C for contain, and E for extinguish. And what exactly does that mean for your audience?
Yeah, although, we would love to see video and imagery used in every template because that is perhaps a little bit more engaging. Sometimes you can't stray away from using text. So that's a great way to chunk it down for your learners. In addition to that, with all of those very text-heavy templates, you can also add in audio narration as well to complement. So it's a great option if you want to just give it a little bit of extra spice to that old text there.
There we go. And we've got two more templates to cover here. Right now, we're looking at what EdApp has is, sorry, pardon me there, a really easy way to deploy gamification for your learning, right? So we're looking at a true or false style template. It's an example of a game that's easy for you to put together. Those are accessible with pressing that add a new slide button. And I just wanted to show you a couple of different games that we have available to you. We're looking at true or false, but there's a variety of different really engaging games that you can deploy simply by clicking these templates and then adding the appropriate text and imagery. All of the interaction for that game is built out for you and automatically deployed to your learner. So in this case, we've got a really great little true or false game. We've got different pieces of text. It's just a matter of copy and pasting lines from whatever training documents you might already have on hand and answering whether or not these are correct or incorrect. It's just a checkbox. And then when the effect for the user, let's take a look. When they hit OK, I'm ready, they're greeted with this timed game, essentially, which is just a rapid fire interaction wherein they drag these pieces of text into a true or false field. Both of these fields can be edited. So you have the opportunity to change whether they're right or wrong, true, false, correct, incorrect, whatever it might be. And the user just drags to match. Tries to rack up as high a score as possible before the time runs out. Great. So it's just a simple way to put together a game. I highly recommend dropping one of these at the end of any micro lesson. It's just a great way to retain the attention of your audience. If you're using a leaderboard, this is the perfect arena for leaderboards because this is a great way for your learners to rack up those points and sort of gain an edge on the competition, if you will. Moving on forward from the games that we've got available, the last style of template that I recommend using, this would be sort of one of those last slide style templates, and those are surveys. So surveys, obviously, gaining feedback from your audience is incredibly important. So we have a variety of different surveys that you can use. This example showcases a free text survey. Here we've got a question on screen. What's one way you've exemplified being a role model for your peers? It's just a matter of posing the question, and editing a few options here, such as the prompt or the minimum response length. And the effect for the user is they get a chance to pose their answer as a field of text and hit submit. And all of these answers are then collected in your analytics suite for you to review. And that's that. There's a couple of different things that you can do with surveys. For example, how would you improve your microlearning content? Earlier, someone asked, is there a way that I can provide training for how to interact with these lessons? And yes, you can make your lessons easy to interact with just by the template choices that you use and making sure that your prompts are correct. But this is a great way to capture from your audience whether or not they are having a really great time working their way through their learning, or if there was something that confused them. All right, and I think that wraps it up for a review of the different template styles, Luke.
Yeah, that was fantastic. We definitely covered a lot of ground there, and bear in mind, guys, I think we looked at about 15 templates there of the 80 available. So there's many other options that you can utilize to put together your learning. But let's have a look at those questions that we were asking earlier. I know that we've almost coming up on time, and we'd be happy to go over a little bit for anyone that wants to hang on. But yeah, let's have a look at analytics, live classrooms, the PowerPoint upload feature. Basically, give us a tour of the whole platform, Chris.
Perfect. Well, here, we'll see if we can't do it in record time, Luke.
Okay, let's
So
go.
let's take a look. So first things first, let's start off with live classrooms. That one's going to be really easy for us to cover off. What we've been looking at for the entirety of today's demonstrations, it's taken place under the micro lesson, essentially. So these are all tools through which you can build out lesson content on EdApp. But micro lessons aren't the only vehicle through learning that we've provided for our audience. It is our main vehicle of learning, but there is three other options, and one of them is that virtual classroom feature. So when you're creating out a course, here we've got a nice little sandbox course, and here's the micro lesson that we were just editing. You can run live classrooms sort of parallel to that. So clicking the schedule virtual classroom button greets you with a few options. It's just a matter of entering your Zoom or Google Meets or WebEx, whatever it is that you're using, link details right here. And the effect, and also what very important, you want to put the time of the event here. And one of three things can happen. If the event is in the future, if a learner visits this module, they'll be presented with a calendar invite and the details for how to get to the meeting, specifically the link, as well as your nice description. Perfect. If the event is immediate, it's about to happen or is currently happening, clicking that module will launch the live classroom event. And if it has happened in the past, this date time has since passed, they'll be greeted with the recording. So they'll have the option to view the content. And yeah, again, this just sits next to your micro lessons. It's a great way for you to have mixed learning, a hybrid learning model, essentially.
Fantastic. Thanks for that, Chris. I think that those of you that explored this a little bit further, you'll see how nicely those kind of live events fit within your curriculum. The whole idea is that you can blend those sorts of face-to-face type experiences alongside micro lessons, as well as some of our other features around discussions and assignments as well, which we won't go into today, but all really good options to pursue as well. Let me have a look at the questions here, and let's try and pick out a couple that we haven't yet addressed. Unless, Chris, you have a PowerPoint on hand that you can show us how to upload.
You know, I might, but we'll take a look. That's the glory of doing a live presentation here, Luke. So here we're at the home screen of our authoring tool. This is the Sandbox account that I've been using. And some of you might have noticed this upload PowerPoint button has recently been added. So that's the upload PowerPoint feature. Giving this a click gives you some really simple fields that you get to edit. And here you have a choose file field for your PowerPoints. And let me see if I have any PowerPoints standing by ready to go. Okay, so unfortunately I don't. It doesn't look like. But I'll tell you what, I can showcase for or explain how the PowerPoint feature works. Essentially, the PowerPoint feature allows you to upload any PPT file. The slides of that PowerPoint file are then all transformed into microlearning templates. And you have a lesson that's then made and ready for you to edit. Earlier I mentioned that this webinar is the perfect arena for you because all of those templates are going to be static pieces of imagery and text. So you're going to want to liven it up with some of the examples that we showed on screen here today by intermixing those throughout the slides that you might have already had. They're presented as simple image or simple text templates in our authoring tool.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Chris. And there's actually some great recordings of how the PowerPoint feature works on a very top line level and a very granular level on our YouTube channel. So we can send those over to anyone that's interested as well. We have another question here from Navi. Thanks for that, Navi. Really just asking about wiring together a program of content, in this specific case, new hire training for sales reps. So how can we build out multiple subjects, but in a manner that creates a course of subjects that are required to be taken in a specific order? So we'll do our best to display this with material from our content library, and build it out. Obviously, Chris, do your best here to just put together a basic framework that shows us what's possible.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're trying to deploy a program and you might be pressed for time, a great way to do that is to head on over to the content library. Some of the material here is actually going to be fully fledged and really great material that you can deliver to your audience right away. And then some of it might just serve as an example for you to, example for how to build out a great microlearning course if it doesn't directly hit the mark. But that's what we're looking at today. We've got a course on persuasive selling. This is a model through which you would deliver learning to your audience. So this persuasive selling course, or for today's example, sales onboarding, essentially serves as a folder for these different micro lesson modules, all of them on a specific task. We've got our introduction course, some of the sales essentials, and we can break these different micro lessons down into really any topic that we need. They can be ready-made from our content library, or as we've just seen, we can build them from scratch if there's something that we really need to press upon that's specific to our audience. For example, what it is that you're selling, some product competency training. All of that can be easily implemented by pressing that create a lesson button. And if you wanted to make this even more in depth, you can break these down by modules and say, for example, have a week mod, like a week 1 or a week 2 or a week 3 module. To further create a sense of timeline or process for your training. One way that you can do that is by making these lessons prerequisite to each other, so that they have to be taken in a specific order. Hopefully that answers the question there, Luke. Is there something I should probably drill down on more?
Yeah, no, they're all fantastic things to do for sure. I think if we just go back to the course list as well, just one thing that I'll add to that is within EdApp, the hierarchy of content is very simple to understand. We have lessons at the very bottom, which is obviously engagements that we were working through just before. On top of that, you have a course. So a course is a way of grouping content in a lesson. And in this particular example, we're looking at specific content related to a sales process, for example, introduction, execution, et cetera, et cetera. But then if we go out one further level, you would then, obviously, you don't just lump all of your content into one course. The idea would be that you would put together multiple courses across different topics. So if you just go to the library there, Chris, I believe there's a course in the library on negotiation, which obviously, for a sales team could also be relevant. So if we drop this in, if it's, there we go, negotiation fundamentals, we'll pop that into the library. And then obviously you can reorder the courseware. So if you want to make that one first and second, and whichever order you would like, the prerequisites feature that Chris mentioned in the past will give you the ability to really specify that lessons need to be taken in a certain order. And then on top of the course level, there's also such a thing as a playlist and a course collection, which is a further ability of yours to categorize. So for example, a playlist, it may potentially be used if you've got Q1 sales training that's available, which is your very large group, and then Q2 coming in the future, which you want to basically lock for users, but preview it as upcoming. So there's many different kind of configurations of content, and understanding that we have very sometimes small customers using EdApp that just really need a very simple layout of content, and also very, very large organizations as well that are structuring content for many thousands of employees. So lots of ways to go about it. And when you get closer to the admin tool, all of these things tend to come quite easily. But thanks for that question there. Again, with any of these questions that we're answering very quickly on the webinar, if you guys would like a further discussion about any of this stuff, we would definitely welcome it.
Yeah, absolutely. Our team would be happy to hop on a Zoom call with you and discuss these with you one-to-one, and provide an example through which they would be deployed for your team.
Brilliant.
And we had one more question about analytics, did we, Luke?
We did, yeah. Thanks for reminding me there.
Oh yeah, no problem at all. And thank you everyone who's still sticking along here. Yeah, the analytics tool for EdApp is extremely powerful. Just by clicking this drop down, we're greeted with a great preview for some of the different reports that we've got available. So you have ways through which you can measure engagement, performance, knowledge retention on your platform, as well as earlier we saw feedback from surveys. These reports give you insight into specific things in your program. For example, we just built out a course. We just built out a course on sales onboarding. So this report, if we click this right here, give me a moment. If we click this report right here, we should be able to see a report on how our sales class how our sales course is performing amongst our audience. And that includes details like completion rates, how many users are enrolled, what is everyone's score looking like. These are all things that you can track really easily, and you can get as granular as you need. You can, sort of drill down onto a specific learner. Of course, you can do this across different courses. You can also do this across different users or groups of users. Say, for example, how is my sales team at site A doing versus my sales team over at site B? How are their scores looking relative to each other?
Yeah,
These are all
one thing that we hear all the time talking in a sales context is segmentation of groups. Obviously, a sales group on the West Coast versus the East Coast of the USA, or the UK versus France may have different content, and of course you would want to segment up their completion data separately. So our feature for user groups gives you the ability to do that. And you can have as many groups as you like. Those groups are nested and set up in a hierarchical fashion, whereby if you want to assign content to everyone, all you need to do is give it to the parent, and then it will kind of flow down into the child groups. So there's those configurations that you can play around with. From an analytics perspective, some of the other reports that I also love are obviously the users report. Gives you the ability to drill down on performance of individuals. I'm not sure if we have any data in this test account. Okay, we've got a preview there. We can have a look at, for an individual, how much content they've completed. If we drill down, we can have a look at their activity feed and understand where they've spent their time. It's a bit of big brother view. So if you want to be looking at really specific information, you can play there. Or this view here, which I think is very exciting, gives you the ability to look at for an individual what courses they've completed and what they have upcoming. You'll see for a few of the lessons that we actually have attempted for this particular test user, you'll see the attempts there, and that's where you can track the actual scores of the individual learner against each of their lesson attempts. So I guess the short of it is that with the analytics, you can go very high level, or you can jump into the very granular data as well.
This user right here is the user through which I was logged in to try all these templates out during our webinar. And I'm just realizing now that I scored pretty horribly in this example. I promise that knowledge retention with EdApp is much better than what I've demonstrated today. Great.
There's always the next webinar to improve those scores there, Chris.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not proud of my report card here. We'll get them next time. All right, great. And how are we doing on questions, Luke? Are our bases covered off at this point?
We've got two more here. Let's have a look. 1 second. So the question reads, thinking from a training perspective, I must be too used to a set training course that I'm confused on how micro lessons are implemented, for who, and when does the training happen?
Oh,
Sorry, go ahead, Chris.
that is a great question. So basically, is this audience member asking how they would deploy this training?
I believe so, and I guess just a general understanding of how microlearning might fit within traditional blended learning, for example. So feel free to answer that one, Chris. But I would also suggest here is that obviously introducing customers to how microlearning can be best used is a conversation that we would absolutely welcome, and one that maybe can't be answered in a single sentence. So
Yeah.
unless you've got the skills to do so, Chris.
Well, I'll give it a shot to cover that off briefly. And if Luke or Molly, if you guys have that blended learning diagram at the ready, maybe drop that in the chat. But just to answer it very succinctly, this learning is deployed to your audience through one of two really simple means, and that's by using this invite users function. To kickstart this learning program and to give your learners, your audience, visibility into the material that we've seen that can be built, that we've built out today. Essentially, we previewed building out today. Sorry, I know that sentence was a jumble. You would just head on over to the users tab and press this invite users button. There is an invite code method. We're not going to get into that today because it's a little bit more involved, but it's simply a matter of entering these emails and hitting send. You can, of course, do this in bulk by uploading a spreadsheet if you're inviting dozens or hundreds of users at a time. But again, the method is the same. Just upload, add the subject line, and hit that send invitation button here at the bottom of the screen. The effect for the user is they'll receive an invitation from EdApp. It's got a subject line that you can edit, and they'll be able to click a button in this email to set their password. And the email address that you've set here will be their username. And then once they've set their password, they'll be greeted with the content that you've built out, the specific content that you've decided to deliver to them using our admin tool.
Thanks for that, Chris. I think that obviously the deployment of content is definitely very integral in answering that question from before. So thanks for that. We've got a few further questions on that. You mentioned that blended learning slide, as well as a question around actually kind of facilitating I guess the sale of content to learners. If it's okay with you, Chris, I know that we may be straying off the script here, but if I could steal the screen from you, I'd love to talk through these topics quickly for those that are on the line.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I wouldn't worry too much about the script on this one, Luke. I think we've long since abandoned the script.
Sorry about that. I can't help myself, guys.
No, no, no.
Um,
It's the best way to do it. I love answering those questions. I mean, that's how we make this as tailored as possible.
that's how we roll. So the first thing, can you see my screen, Chris?
Yeah, you're coming through loud and clear.
Awesome. Awesome. So the first thing to talk about payment gateways, answering that question that we just saw about potentially selling courseware to your learner audiences, or assuming you're either a kind of external service or an agency and monetizing the kind of the IP that you build in the tool. So what I'm showing on screen here is a very easy way to explain how you can set it up. So firstly, I will say that within the application itself, within the EdApp experience, there is no payment gateway for courseware. So there is no kind of app store like feature where you can be inside of EdApp and purchasing courseware, like an in-app purchase, for example. The way that you handle payment for courseware on EdApp is to use our API to build your own kind of payment portal on your own website. And that's what we're showing on screen here. So if I can just talk you through the example, hopefully it will make a little bit more sense. So step number one is the landing page. So this is actually a screenshot from a partner program, Dignity Health Global Education, who are obviously a very large medical training company in the USA. And they are currently running a program around resilience training for frontline health workers, which is a whole nother story and a fantastic one to talk about as well, because they're utilizing EdApp to give back to health workers. The actual transaction that they're taking with this particular program is then being donated back to frontline health workers, which is awesome. But the mechanic that you see on screen is very simple. You would build out a web page with a payment portal on your website. You would use our API to then, once the learner has confirmed their purchase, use our API to then create the individual user profile in your account. Step number three there, they can either be presented with a unique login on the confirmation page, but in addition to that, if you wanted to send them an email with steps to log in, and you can see a temporary password there. And then from there, they can then go about either downloading the application and logging in with those temporary credentials, or you could direct them to our web experience as well. So it's a very seamless process, but the key takeaway here is that the payment gateway is on your domain, which is fantastic for all of you that are potentially selling courseware, because it's your landing page, it's your environment where you want to be doing the selling and talking about the advantages of your courseware, and then easily pop them into EdApp to engage with the material. So hopefully I've answered that question. If there's any follow on from that, send us an email and happy to discuss it further. Flipping over to the question around blended learning. This is a little bit more in depth, but let's give it 5 minutes. What you can see on my screen is a map of blended learning utilizing EdApp as part of that experience. So what we're showcasing here is a typical blended learning journey. We're looking at an eight week program here. This could be 1 week, or it could be an entire school year, for example. The map obviously would be respective to your particular training use case. But what we're looking at here is something typical that you might find with learning programs delivered by agencies, for example, or internally, where you're combining traditional training platforms, whether that be a video conference via Zoom, for example, or if it's a face-to-face, if you're lucky enough to be back in the office, then combined with microlearning, some of our other features for gamification and leaderboards, and then our features for discussions and assignments. So what we're proposing here is that over an entire period of a program, you wire together microlearning, and it could be a lesson a day or 3 lessons a week, or just 1 lesson a week. But the idea is that microlearning is best delivered at high frequency, and provided as continuous learning. And the idea with week 1 is that you might want to put together some pre-assessment so that when you get to week 2 and you're ready to deliver your conference or your face-to-face, your learners are already primed up, and you've potentially gathered some feedback from them as well. In week 2, you're combining a video conference with microlearning and potentially a discussion in the application. Week 3, you're embedding. Week 4, you're embedding and you're dropping in a game or a leaderboard to further incentivize and drive motivation. Week 5, you're dropping in another discussion point. If we're talking about the sales team example from earlier, it could be a discussion around negotiation skills, or an assignment for asking the learner to upload a video talking about how they handled a certain negotiation in the past. Week number 6 there, a closing video conference complemented with microlearning. Week 7 and 8, ongoing microlearning, and then our Brain Boost feature kicking in. So let's have a look at these features really quickly. Microlearning, we obviously looked at this in great depth during the webinar. Number 2, virtual classrooms. Chris gave us a nice preview of this as before. Facilitating discussion. So this is a look at a discussion in EdApp where you can post a topic, have your learners respond with video or text. Learners can reply, they can watch a thread, etc., etc. Leaderboards and gamification, actually kind of creating those motivational elements in the app, keeping it fun and social and exciting. Number 5, an assignment is your ability to post a question and actually request that the learner responds in a long form way. And then from there, you can make it a pass or a try again, give feedback, etc. And then Brain Boost as well, which is our AI-driven feature to reiterate learning to an individual user. And really, the mechanic is a daily quiz that's given to the learner that's basically put together based upon the learner's interactions and their performance in your microlearning curriculum, which is a whole nother kettle of fish, but a very, very exciting feature nonetheless. So thanks for sticking with us there. We've still got a few people hanging on, so hopefully this is coming through good, and it's being quite informative. Chris, if you could just fire up just those closing slides, and we can give people a few email addresses to reach us on. I think that there's lots of great discussions here that we can continue. So let's give everyone some avenues to seek us out.
Absolutely, yeah. For those of you who have some really in-depth questions, I know we mentioned a couple of times that we can give you a preview, a personalized demonstration of what we've seen on screen, and really talk through your unique deployments. Please reach out to us. You can see myself, Luke, and our partner Jamie's emails on screen. We would be happy to answer your questions. You can also reach us via hello@edapp.com through a quick email or through the live chat. And yeah, we'd be happy to field those questions for you. And then last but not least, if you liked what you saw today and you'd like to join another webinar and maybe engage with us a little bit more so than you already have, we actually do workshop session style webinars twice weekly. And those are, those are held by our design team, our instructional design team. So these sessions, you can turn your microphone and your microphone and share your screen, and you can ask questions with our team and work shoulder to shoulder with our audience of members out there. And again, we're doing these twice weekly. That's over at edapp.com/webinars at the bottom of the page that you signed up for this webinar today at. And I think that that just about does it, Luke. I think